Bit of a different video today. I wanted to go over what is currently popular in the competitive format for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So what I'm going to do is go over the top 10 list on Pikalytics, which this will be slightly different than what you're going to see in the Scarlet and Violet ranked ladder because this is using data from Showdown, but it will still give a reasonable idea of what you need to plan for when you're team building. So Indeedee is actually number 10. This is what is just below number 10, since I will only be covering top 10. These are like honorable mentions right over here. Okay, number 10, Indeedee, which most of them run Follow Me, as well as Helping Hand, and it seems Psychic and Trick Room are the third and fourth move respectively. Now they do occasionally run Protect and Dazzling Gleam. Don't really know why someone would run Psyshock on this, and every so often you might run into one that has Heal Pulse or Fake Out. And in no surprise, the most common thing it is paired with is Armorogue, because Indeedee sets up Expanding Force for Armorogue. But this also pairs pretty well with Torkoal because it can set Trick Room and also redirect any attacks that may be coming after Torkoal. And I'm not really sure about Masquerada and King Gambit's usage paired with Indeedee. Perhaps it's just coverage for the rest of the team. Number 9 on the list is Grimmsnarl at 17.39% usage, and it is most commonly a Screens Grimm, which I don't think item data is available yet, so most likely it's going to be Light Clay if it's a Screens Grimm. The most common attack is Spirit Break, and not surprising, and these do also still run Parting Shot a fair bit, even more so than they do Fake Out, and there's a couple other moves that they may or may not run, but it's not very common. And this is often paired with, well, a bunch of popular Pokemon that we're going to see higher up on this list, such as Amoonguss, Garchomp, and Annihilate, but even Rotom Wash, which is interesting considering its much lower usage rate. And apparently Arcanine is still getting some usage, even though Clear Amulet is quite common now, which basically shuts down Intimidate's utility. Number 8, Masquerada. Unsurprisingly, their most common attack is Flower Trick, and they also run Knockoff, U-Turn, Sucker Punch, Protect, Play Rough, and occasionally Trick Room. Probably a Focus Sash version would be running Trick Room as a way to either reverse a Trick Room or to give their team speed control. But for the most part, this is run very offensive, so it is safe to assume that most Masquerada are going to have 4 attacks, with the occasional one having Protect. And this is most commonly paired with Goldingo, Armorogue, and Hydreigon, with occasionally Sylveon and Indeedee. And for those wondering, yes, they are almost always Grass Terra type. Number 7 is Armorogue, and these like to run their signature moves Expanding Force and Armor Cannon, as well as run Trick Room because they're often run slow so that they can set up Trick Room and sweep under it. Their other spread move is Heat Wave. Now they do sometimes run Protect. I have run into several that use Wide Guards. Even though the statistics only show 7.892%, I would keep that in mind as this can shut down spread options very effectively. And apparently they occasionally run Aura Sphere and Stored Power. That's interesting. As expected, the most common teammate's Indeedee, because that helps set up Trick Room or Expanding Force. Masquerada also is commonly paired with this, I guess because the typing is essentially the opposite of Armorogue. And Sylveon and Torkoal because they're both slow and benefit from having Armorogue setting up Trick Room. Now, this is where it gets a little bit interesting because the Terra types actually vary a fair bit. The most common is Grass, though you will occasionally see Psychic and Fire, and there's a few that run Dark. Obviously the data on Terra types is still incomplete, so I wouldn't take these numbers exact, but it is pretty safe to assume that the majority that you run into would be Grass, and still no item and ability data on those. Number 6 is Annihilate. Now these are often very offensive, but they run 2 different kinds of offense. The most common is Rage Fist and Drain Punch, designed to give it a fair bit of sustain with Drain Punch, and a lot of offense if you set up Rage Fist. But these are occasionally Scarf Final Gambit, which is something you will have to consider whenever you see it. These do also occasionally run Bulk Up and Protect, though it's far less common to see those 2 options. And for some reason, people are trying Phantom Force on this thing, though I'm not exactly sure why. Most common teammates are Murkrow and Hydreigon, as well as Mousehold and Grimmsnarl, Dondozo. And the most common Terra type is Fire, but there is also a fair amount of Water as well. and apparently some people are also trying Steel Terra on this. So it looks like Annihilate is mostly just damage or trying to get a guaranteed one hit on something with Final Gambit. Number 5, Amoonguss. Wow, most of them run Spore. I am so surprised. They also often run Rage Powder and Clear Smog, most likely to cover Dondozo. And these also run Protect. After that, it's Pollen Puff, Giga Drain, and Foul Play. Now, most common teammates: Garchomp, Grimmsnarl, Arcanine for some reason, Rotom, as well as some Slow Boys and Pelipper. And the common Terra type is actually a defensive Terra type in the form of water. So these are almost always run support, and it is very safe to assume that you're going to see 4 of these 5 moves right here, combined with water Terra typing. Typical of Amoonguss, it's very predictable what it's going to do. Number 4 is Hydreigon, which we have gotten into the over 20% usage rate. That actually started with Armarouge, which means there's a lot of them out there. And these very commonly will run Dark Pulse and Draco Meteor, as well as Protect and Heat Wave. So you do need to play into Hydreigon often having Protect, but these will also run Tailwind, and if they're Steel Terra type, they like to run Flash Cannon, and they will also occasionally run Snarl. Now, the common teammates is Goldingo, Murkrow, Garchomp. I'm starting to see a trend here. Annihilate, Masquerada, and then the goes down to below 20% from there. Now, as for Terra types, we do see a lot of Steel currently. So when you're team building, I would play into Hydreigon having either Steel or Fire Terra type, but they are occasionally Poison. If you're using Fighting type coverage to cover Hydreigon, a Poison Terra Hydreigon could really mess you up there. But for the most part, these are offensive as well as setting up Tailwind. We're at top 3, we have Garchomp with 26% usage. Well, almost 27, that's a lot. And these very commonly run Earthquake as well as Protect, Dragon Claw, and Rock Slide. So Wide Guard is actually pretty effective against this, which is probably why it occasionally shows up on Armarouge. These do also run Swords Dance, Iron Head, and Stomping Tantrum, but much less so Iron Head and Stomping Tantrum. So basically these 5 moves are what you're going to be looking for when you're going against Garchomp. Common teammates, can you guess what top 2 are? You're almost always going to see this trio, but they are also paired with Hydreigon, Amoonguss, and Rotom. Now, Terra types. Common Terra type right now is Ground, which I haven't actually run into a Ground Terra type Garchomp yet, which is kind of interesting to see that it's so high. Usually I run into Fire Terra, which the stats would suggest that very few of them run Fire Terra, which I find kind of odd as well, but they do occasionally also run Steel, which the reason to go for these more defensive Terra types is because of Ice. But for consistency, Water type can actually hit all of these at least neutral, so Water type coverage may be ideal for consistent options against Garchomp. Alright, second on the list is Murkrow, so I'm pretty sure you all know what the first one on the list is. We have 27% usage on Murkrow, and it is almost always a Prankster support running Tailwind, Foul Play, Taunt, and Haze. That is the common build, but they will occasionally run Brave Bird, Quash, Thunder Wave, Protect, Icy Wind, and even Perish Song. Now that's interesting. Common teammates, just pick your favorite Pokemon from the top 10 list, I guess. And also no Terra type data, so these are rarely ever terrestrialized. At the very least, Murkrow is very predictable. You know exactly what it's going to do when it shows up. And having nearly 30% usage right now is Goldingo, which has topped the charts of Series 1. And the reason for this is Make It Rain is just so incredibly strong paired with Murkrow. But this does also run its other stab in the form of Shadow Ball. Protect is very common on these as well. And the other move, I've seen several different options. I have run into Nasty Plot and Dazzling Gleam. I've also seen Power Gem, which is not on the stats, but Power Gem covers fire types, which is probably why I've seen one running that. Unsurprisingly, there's the teammates, not even gonna go over that. Terra types, most commonly Steel. There used to be a lot more flying type. Goldingo early in the meta, I have seen Dark once, but they are most commonly Steel type now. It's pretty safe to try to counter Goldingo with ground type coverage nowadays. So yeah, that is currently what's topping the charts. So the next time you are building a brand new team, you will definitely want to keep these top 10 in mind, as these are what you're gonna pretty much see every single match. Actually, you are just about guaranteed based on the stats to see one of these every match, if not multiple of these every match. So yeah, maybe I will do a video every month or so just keeping up with the trends of the meta and see where things are changing. I know right now some people are talking about rain teams becoming more common, which I would not be surprised if that is actually the case. but the stats have currently not caught up with that, as Pelipper is sitting at around 5.4% usage. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all next time.